Hello! This is my motorbike. It's a Yamaha XT600 and most of it is from 1986. The engine is 1992 I think, and the nice thing about that is it means it's got an electric start. Up until then they were kickstart, which being as it's 600cc single cylinder, that's yeah, hard work. It's a great machine, but as with, I was going to say all my vehicles, as with everything I own, it's not perfect. So I do have some work to do on this. I'm actually going to do a full project restoration on this at some point. Well, that's the plan anyway, probably when I finish the current Land Rover that I'm working on. But for now, I just need to do a few things to it to get it up together enough to get through an MOT. Normally I do this in the spring. Each spring I go through it, give it a service, spruce it up a bit, take it for the test. Of course this year, springtime was lockdown, and so I couldn't take this for its MOT. I got the 6-month extension that everybody got, and that's now expired, and to be honest that crapped up on me a bit. Yeah, now it's out of MOT, and as this is my main transport, I need to get it sorted and legal again so I can use it. So I have a bit of work to do to this to get it up together for the get it back on the road, and I'm going to film that work. I'm also going to put together a little MOT checklist type video which I think might be useful, but this is intended just as an introduction to the bike. So I'll have a look around it because there are quite a few modifications I've already made to this. We'll start from the rider's point of view then. And you might be able to notice a few non-standard things already. So we've got a mobile phone holder, heated grips control here. These are actually the clocks from a XT500, so they're round rather than standard square ones. No real reason for that. Oh yeah, and a pair of scissors in the ignition. The ignition switch is one of the things that needs to be fixed. This came about because I'm not sure if the previous, yeah, I think the last MOT, I did some work on the bike, and then this was a couple of weeks before the MOT, and I remember putting the ignition key somewhere safe. Now, where that safe place is, I've never found it again, so it's probably still there, nice and safe. So the morning of the MOT, I had to frantically come up with an alternative, and I made a key. I just got a key that was similar to the proper ignition key, well, from my memory of it, and then I just attacked it with a grinder until it fitted in here, and it worked. It worked because the ignition barrel is totally worn, so the pins that normally engage on a key will engage on a variety of keys, and on a pair of scissors. So yeah, that substitute key survived for quite a long time, until it bounced out on some journey somewhere, and that's why we've got the current setup. Now the ignition barrel wasn't very good anyway. It had gone wrong on me before and left me stranded. Basically the contacts are inside there. When you turn the ignition barrel, it's moving some copper contacts. They were just worn out. I stripped the whole thing down, cleaned it up and rebuilt it. Yeah, it worked okay until now, but I've got a new ignition barrel to replace them there. The other thing that I need to do is to replace this switchgear here. Again, I've stripped it and rebuilt it before, but it's just worn out. I've got another one that's not actually an XT, it's from a TDM, so it's a slightly different bike, but I think it'll fit, and it's got the right controls in it, so I'm hopeful I can make it work. So those are two of the things that definitely need doing. So like I say, at some point I want to completely rebuild this and customize it a little bit. It's already quite far from being a standard XT600. I'll just go through a few of the reasons why. Obviously we've got an aftermarket screen here. This bit's fairly original. The indicators are much smaller than the original ones, and to be honest I don't really like these ones. They're sort of cheap and nasty fake carbon fibre, so they're going to go at some point. The standard bike has its mudguard right up here, which I didn't like. I felt it looked a bit daft, but it also, when you're going quickly, it it shakes around and everything. I much prefer it down here. There's still plenty of clearance. Yeah, I just like that more. And a similar modification to the mudguard, and I think made by the same company, is this fuel tank. So the standard XT600 fuel tank is a tiny affair, just rubbish if you're going to go any long distance, which is strange because that's often what people buy these bikes for. This is a really popular bike for going, or used to be in the olden days, for going around the world, back when you could do such a thing. And that's why I got it. I wanted something that would just chug along, and I just like the concept of old, well, not of air-cooled singles really. I just think they're great. And I like the simplicity of it all. Anyway, so this is a tank I put on only a couple of years ago. This is a much bigger tank. It holds something like 20-22 litres, and it's brilliant. Although this particular one, needs tidying up a bit. But quite rare now, these. This came all the way from Germany actually. As I said, the engine is a replacement one. That was done by the previous owner, and it's a lovely engine. I've hardly done anything to it over the years apart from just general servicing stuff. Really nice unit they are. It's a twin carb, so no fuel injection, hardly any electronics on the whole bike really. So the carburetors work, they don't work together, well, not quite. You have one carburetor for the low down stuff, and then as you get to about 3000 RPM, the other carburetor starts to open up and join in. Coming over to the right hand side, and well, probably the most obvious thing is this case. This is one of those Pelly cases, which are fantastic bits of kit. It's completely waterproof and nigh on indestructible. It's normally a carrying around case, but I figured it would make an excellent top box. Apart from the fact you can't put a helmet in it, it's great. You can, when I go travelling, I can load it up with spares and such, and I know it's going to keep whatever I put in here nice and dry. This is an aftermarket exhaust, and I actually got this when I got the bike, and it cost me an extra 50 quid, and I was very reluctant to hand that over. But I'm really glad I did now, because the original exhaust only lasted about a year and it just dissolved away. It was completely rubbish. This one, being aluminium, has survived a bit better, although this again needs a bit of work, as every few years it seems to come apart at this end and needs pop riveting back together. Up here I've made a few changes. This is an auxiliary light, and I think it cost me something like £10 for a pair of these, and in a typical way with cheap Chinese tat, one of them failed within a few weeks and the other one is still going, what, like 5-6 years later. So and this little light is actually really handy, because there's been a couple of occasions that the headlight has let me down and I've had to go home just using this one. And the headlight that let me down was a replacement for the original light. So originally it had a halogen bulb in there, and I switched that out for a what do they call it, a high intensity discharge lamp, a HID lamp, which is basically an arc lamp. So you'd have a little carbon rod set up in there, and it sparks across there like you do when you're welding, but then maintains that arc and gives you a super bright light. But it was very sensitive to voltage, it turned out. So if the bike wasn't charging properly, which occasionally it does, there's a mysterious charging fault going on, which is one of the other things I intend to fix on this. But yes, so instead of the light going dim, it would just cut out, and then if the battery was full and you're going above a certain voltage, again the light would cut out, and both of those things would tend to happen, in the middle of the night when you really want your main beam working. So yeah, so I've now switched it out for a LED, and the latest LED lights are really nice. The problem with LED lights before would be that they just give out a completely unidirectional sort of swamping of light, and that's why people associate LED lights with being blinding on oncoming traffic. This one here has the actual pattern that the halogen lamp had, so it has a nice cut-off between high and low, is what I'm trying to say, and it's a really nice light. Here at the back end, none of this was actually here when I got the bike. The whole of the back end was missing. So you just had the end of the frame here and nothing else. So this bit here that holds the number plate is like an aftermarket thing that you can buy for dirt bikes. So it's just a sort of plasticky thing with an LED brake light, but works fine. And then I made up this rack so that when I'm going camping, for instance, I have panniers attached there on each side, so they have soft luggage. And yeah, so one pannier on each side, and then I can put a bag on top of this case, and that's all the luggage carrying I need. So I've told you a bit about the bike, we've had a quick look around it. In the next video I'll do that bit of work that needs sorting on it. And if anyone's interested, I'll go over a bit more of the history of the bike and how I came to acquire it and why I chose this particular model. It's a story that involves bearing women, as all good stories do. I'll finish up with a little ride then. Obviously I can't go very far, so I'm not going to wear any safety gear. I'm not really going to get above jogging pace, but at least you'll be able to hear what it sounds like. Sounds a lot like my dumper. See you next time.